what will happen is women will come to me, and the more they do public relations, the more crystal clear they become with number one, who they are. Because there's a lot of people in fear of just being themselves. We hear the word authentic every day, or just be yourself, right? But not many people are really being true to themselves. They're not. They're fitting themselves into a box in the hopes that you're going to be a client. And I'm not saying go out there and be controversial. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes people are afraid to really let their true personality shine because they're afraid of whether people will take them seriously, or they don't want to rock the boat, maybe. We live in cancel culture, so they don't want that to happen. They're also like, well, I've built this community. If I start to mention this, I might lose people. So there's a lot going on there. But then when they start bringing who they really truly are as well, it can feel very nerve-wracking. And so not only am I getting them the PR, but I hold my clients' hands through this process because it's a process.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today our guest is coming all the way from an island over in Europe. Please welcome to the podcast, Melanie Whittaker. Melanie, how are you doing?
I'm laughing because he was so wanting to say my surname the way the British say it, and it would have been fine if you said it the way the Americans say it, because the Americans say Whittaker and we say Whittaker. But it's still the same, it's not a big deal. And I'm on a beautiful Spanish island just off the coast of Africa. So great to be here.
So great to have you on the show. I see that you work with PR, marketing. Can you tell us in your own words a bit about the work that you do?
There's two kinds of women that will approach me. And so there's the ones who really get public relations and they fully understand what it's about. They understand why they need it and why they want it. And they will come to me because they're killing their marketing. They're already on top of that, but they want to go bigger. So yes, you can have a very successful business just off social media and emails. Of course you can. But they realize that if they do public relations, they're going to be seen on so many other media platforms, whether it's doing something like this, a podcast, it could be being featured in a magazine, on digital TV, radio, TV, the list goes on. So they do it for that because they want to be seen in a lot of places, but they also do it because marketing has changed. And so people want to know who you are as a person. So when they come to me, I create their pitch and their press release, which is creating a story of who they are, why they created their business, why they do what they do, who they support, who they help, what they're passionate about, what their mission is, what they want to achieve with their business and the lives that they want to impact. So there's a story that we create, and then I get them seen on various media platforms.
And what kind of businesses do you usually attract? Is it a specific business or is it just all forms?
It's predominantly female coaches and female service providers. That said, I've worked with artists. But as long as you're offering some kind of service to someone, then I can do that for you.
Okay, and how does someone know that they should work with someone like you? What are questions that they should be asking themselves?
Well, it's interesting because, so as I said, I work with a lot of female coaches. So they could want to sell a book or fill a retreat. Now they know because they're good at their marketing. They know that they're going to pretty much kill it, right? Because they're already on top of their marketing. They know what they need to do, the message they're putting out, who they want to attract. They're doing all the social media, they're doing the emails. But what's happening is they come to me when they're like, I want to go bigger. So if someone is listening to this podcast and they're thinking, why would I need to do public relations? I don't see how that's going to benefit my business. Then the best way to think of it is, how big do you want your business to grow? And when listen, me and my clients never ever debate the algorithm. It's just not something we talk about, because you're never going to suss it ever. And here's something I want people to take away when they listen to this. The algorithm isn't there to make your life happy. The apps are not there to make your life happy. They're all businesses, right? Look at when people, well, I think it is going to happen eventually, isn't it, out there in America, where they were all frightened that TikTok was going to go away. Like, you need to ask yourself the question, if the media apps disappeared tomorrow, could you still survive as a business? And carrying on from that train of thought, there's always going to be a certain percentage of people on the social media apps that just don't want to be sold to. They're going on there to be entertained. They want to find out what their friends did at the weekend, who's had a baby, who's getting married, who's been on holiday, beautiful beaches that they've been to and cities they've gone to. So they're not focusing on being sold to. No matter how good your product, no matter how good your services are, they just don't want to be sold to. And the beauty of when you do PR is you don't have to do the hard sell, because you're actually selling yourself. So you're selling yourself as the business owner, what brought you and led you to this point. And, I was having a conversation just yesterday with some clients. The whole living the perfect life that everyone's talked about online is dying out. And quite frankly, to talk about the perfect life while the world is in a mess right now is highly insensitive. Look at what's happening for you guys in America. There's people out there who've had the SNAP benefits taken away. They don't know when they're going to eat, right? So if you're going to sit there and lead with your marketing saying that you lead the perfect life, while all these atrocities are going on in the world, that's being insensitive to people's run-of-the-mill life, right? So I'm all for people doing well, and I'm all for them being successful and leading an amazing life. But you also need to be aware that we're living in unprecedented times. Yeah, these times are not normal. And I don't just mean for you guys who happen to be in America, but you can say that in Australia, the other side of the world. Like, no one's leading a normal life right now. And to try and pretend that we are, as I say, it's insensitive. So the questions that someone should ask if they're thinking, what is this public relations, is, do you feel as a business owner that you are welcoming people into your world? And when I say welcoming them into your world, I don't mean to buy the latest thing you're selling. I mean that you're dealing with people as a human being. It's very easy when we're on the social media apps to just see their icon on the app and forget it's a human being leading a life on the other side. We forget that because it's just part of life. We just forget. And so when I say, are you welcoming people into your world? I mean, how many genuine interactions are you having with people in your marketing? Well, however you're doing it, whether it's on an app, whether it's in an email, whether it's writing a blog, you might do a YouTube channel, like whatever, in your newsletters, whatever the thing is that you're doing, do people feel a connection to you? And this is why a lot of coaches will approach me, because they're like, I'm doing well, but I want to do better. So I've got my community. but it needs to build and build. And so I want more people coming in. And the beauty of when they do public relations is not only have you gained them, so whether you add them onto an email list or you get them to come to your retreat or buy your book, whatever the thing is, right? You're welcoming them into your world, but you're saying, hey, I'm a real person. And instead of leading with, hey, I've got the most amazing, perfect life, you're actually engaging with your audience and letting them see the real you. And that is why a lot of people come to me for PR, because they're like, I want people to really know who I am.
When people come to you, are there some who might have misconceptions regarding the work that you do?
When I talk to someone and they're interested about public relations, I always talk about levels of expectation. So I hate the word, but I'm going to say it. Viral. I'm just fed up with the word viral. If I hear one more person say it, I just want to slap them. Like, you've got to be in it for the long game. Even if you went viral tomorrow, can you cope with that? Right? There's many people who say that they've gone viral and it didn't really bring in the kind of people that they wanted, or it brought in a lot of headaches for them. So you have to have systems in place, and you have to see, here's something. I will always say to people, if they want to work with me, you are not going to be a big name in a month. You're just not. This is going to take time. Now, if they do a book launch, that's completely different to selling a retreat. A book launch is trying to sell a book in a very condensed period of time. You can pretty much do that well in 3 months. But let's say someone wants to fill a retreat, that's like a marathon. So they could possibly want to start that a year from the time of when they go. And so it's about knowing that you're not going to blow up overnight, and that each piece of PR you do is going to compound. So with each interview, you're revealing more and more of who you are, the highs of life, the lows of life, the curveballs that were thrown your way, what you feel passionate about, and why you get out of bed every single day, even on the days that feel tough, and do what you do. The impact that you want to make, your principles. Like, again, I hate to say it, but it's the reality of the world, especially for you guys in America. Like, I know that there are many, and I would be the same if I was over there. I know that there are many business owners over there who will not work with MAGA. End of story. Like, if you're MAGA, don't approach me, right? These are not normal times. No one's ever had to say that before about a political standing on whether they're going to take them as a client or not. But people are slamming down and going, no, if you're associated with that, don't even approach me. And so the thing with PR, you're going to start revealing more and more about you as a person, because there's only so much you can reveal on a social media app, and there's only so much you can talk about in an email. And even if you're going to go live, I know lots of coaches go live regularly on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. People have very short attention spans. I know myself, if I see a video, I'll check the length of the video. Sometimes if it's longer than 10 minutes, I'm not going to even attempt it, because I haven't got the time. As much as I like the person and I appreciate their content, it's like I ain't got that time. But with a podcast, people want to be educated. So a lot of the time, people might be on a commute or going for a jog or driving, and they're like, I want something to listen to. And it doesn't bother me if this is 30 minutes, 45 minutes, even an hour. Like, I'm going to give it time. And what happens from that is they really get to know you as a person.
Have you experienced seeing clients get disappointed when you kind of burst their expectation and tell them the truth that, look, you're not going to, and I'm not going to use that word, that I don't want you to slap me. You said if you hear that word one more time, you're going to slap somebody. So I don't want you to slap me. But if when you tell them that truth, that they're not going to blow up, do you see sometimes people who are disappointed by that reality?
In the main, no, because most people know, anyone who's sensible minded will know that if you're dangling, we see it all the time, don't we? You give me a load of money and I'll make you a millionaire in 90 days. It's rubbish. And anyone who is falling for that is deluded. And so you've got to do your due diligence. And if someone, I will always put, so when I say levels of expectation as well, it all depends on what they want to do. So if someone came to me and they want to do a book launch, but there's only a month to go, I'm not going to do that, because they're not going to get the results they want in a month that is going to feel great. So I would say to them, you need at least 3 months. If it's below 3 months, we're not going to kill it. And I'm honest like that. But then I also want to say this, and this is so important. Before I take on a client, I will look at their website and I will look at their social media once I know what they want to achieve. If the website and the social media does not match what they're trying to achieve, then I will sit down with them and say, this is great that you're going to go off and do this, but if I was a potential client, I would be confused. And the reason that I ask them to sort that out is, if you're on a podcast and you're talking about whatever you're talking about, but then someone goes to your website, because people are going to do that. They're going to listen to a podcast interview and go, oh, I really like that person. Then they're going to do their due diligence and check you out online. If your online presence confuses them, you've lost them. They're not going to tap you on the shoulder, send you an email, send you a message and go, hey, I really like that podcast interview, but your website and your social media doesn't really seem, what's going on? Yeah, they're not going to do that, because it's not their job to work that out. It's your job to make it simple. So I've had conversations with people where they're excited about doing what they want to do, but I've had to say to them, before we start working together, I need you to get this in order. And once that's correct, then we're good to go. Because otherwise, I would be lying to you to take you on, knowing that it's actually going to harm you more than benefit you, because people are just going to be confused and not jump on board with what you're planning to do.
And when people do take that jump and work with you, what are some changes that they see, or what are some results that they see when they work with you and they listen to the guidance that you give?
I have noticed with my clients, listen, public relations is not easy, because there's nowhere to hide with public relations. I can hide behind a social media post. I can hide behind an email. Just hit publish, hit send. There might be a bit where you have a cringy moment for a few moments, but you're hiding still. What's the worst that's going to happen? Someone writes a nasty comment and you cause World War III, maybe. You just block the person. You're in control of that, right? So you're not going to panic that much. When you do PR, you can't hide. There's no hiding at all, because you're giving of yourself with every interview that you do. Even if it's just a written interview, you're still putting your time, your energy, your knowledge. And sometimes you might bring things up that you've kind of put to bed, and you don't think about it anymore. But now it's reared its ugly head and you've got to deal with that. So what will happen is women will come to me, and the more they do public relations, the more crystal clear they become with, number one, who they are. Because there's a lot of people in fear of just being themselves. We hear the word authentic every day, or just be yourself, right? But not many people are really being true to themselves. They're not. They're fitting themselves into a box in the hopes that you're going to be a client. And I'm not saying go out there and be controversial. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes people are afraid to really let their true personality shine, because they're afraid of whether people will take them seriously, or they don't want to rock the boat maybe. We live in cancel culture, so they don't want that to happen. They're also like, well, I've built this community. If I start to mention this, I might lose people. So there's a lot going on there. But then when they start bringing who they really truly are as well, it can feel very nerve-wracking. And so not only am I getting them the PR, but I hold my clients' hands through this process because it's a process. I call it the onion layer. So every interview you do is peeling back another layer of an onion, and you've revealed another little bit of you that nobody knew before, right? And at first, women can feel quite nervous with that because all of a sudden they're like, whoa, and they know they're not hiding anymore. And they might want to get on a call with me and say, oh, Mel, can we I need to decompress from this podcast I just did. Can we talk about it? Or they're psyched up about going onto a podcast and they're like, oh, I really want this to work, but I'm a bit nervous. Can we have a chat? So they start off being nervous, which is totally normal and human. And the more that they do it and we go down that path, there's a huge change in them. And I never say it because it's for them to do it themselves. But eventually we'll be on a Zoom call and they'll just say, I just feel so free. I'm liberated. I'm doing me. I don't care if people don't like me anymore. Like, if I can't be me, then why am I even showing up? Why am I doing this? Why am I trying to be in this box? Because everyone else says that's the box to be in. They're like, nah, I'm being me. I'm being true to me. They get very clear with their marketing and their message because they're having to talk about it over and over and over and over and over again with each interview that they do. And it becomes very, very crystal clear what they're saying in their marketing. Like they just know. Whereas before, don't get me wrong, we all have those days where we have a blank day and we're like, oh, what do I talk about today? That can happen to anyone. But 99% of the time, they're on fire. They're lit up, they get very animated, they get very excited because the more that they do it, it does become quite addictive. If you've never done a podcast, the more that you do them, it feels really good. And I don't mean egotistical because you're talking about yourself. You're talking about something that you feel passionate about. And you know what the work you do changes lives. And you just can't wait to get that out into the world. And I can't teach passion. You're either passionate or you're not. And this is the thing. If you, and I want to make this clear, I'm an extrovert, but I could be working with an introvert. It's got nothing to do with that. An introvert will still be passionate about the work that they do. If they don't bring their passion to the PR, it will fall flat. And I can't teach them that because you're either animated about your business or you're not. We all have different ways of showing that. Of course we do. But I cannot psych you up. I can help you to prepare for your interviews. Of course I can. I'll be there for you. But when it comes to the crunch of being interviewed, are you going to flatline and just be like you're reading the news? Or are you going to bring your personality and your passion and why you do what you do to the front? Because the minute you do that, boom, it changes the game.
Well, now I wanted to get into discussing and exploring a bit about you. Does that sound okay?
Of course, of course.
Awesome, because you were talking about how you can't teach passion. That has to come from the person. And already I see that you have a passion for the work that you do. How did that passion even start?
I've always been a full-on person. I'm not going to lie. But the journey of me being here, so my life when I lived in England was being a secretary, and I reached a point where I just didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to climb up a corporate ladder. I wasn't fulfilled. And there was a time where England was voting to become separate from Europe. So it was Brexit, which meant, and it was the biggest favor that ever happened to me, to be honest. I was very nervous about jumping ship and moving to Spain. I was very nervous, like you would be. But I also knew that if I didn't take the leap, it would be something that I would regret. And I also knew if I didn't take the leap, I was letting a government decide my future rather than me decide my future. So I came to Spain. I started working front of house for restaurants and getting people to come into restaurants, which I can do, and it suits my personality. But then, because I have followed a lot of coaches online, especially Facebook, I was friendly with a coach, and she had asked me, she saw what I was like with social media, especially after the whole 2020. You know, that's changed tourism completely now. Tourists are doing holidays completely differently. They're very active in Facebook groups, they know what they're looking for. And so she saw how I handled that being out here. And she saw my tenacity, my fearlessness in a foreign country. And so she asked me to help people in her mastermind to learn social media. So came along, did that. Then a year goes by and she reached out to me and said, you know what? I'm going to start doing retreats and I want you to PR me. I want you to get out there, get me seen on lots of platforms and make a lot of noise, which I know you can do. And so that has been my journey. And what I also want to say is when I was growing, and I can understand now, well, isn't it funny? You don't put the dots together. I was having a conversation with a client one day, and I don't know why it came up, but in the conversation, I happened to just mention my mother and that she used to be a narcissist. And she was like, oh my goodness, really? And then she was like, I can see now why you do the work that you do. And I was like, why do you say that? And she said, because you really understand fear. You wouldn't have felt safe around your mother. You know, that treading on eggshells with their personality, not knowing if they're going to erupt from one day to the next, being under control of what they're telling you to do. She said, you've had to come through a lot of things in your life to move through and push through that fear. And she said, now I see why you do the work that you do. And I'd never put those dots together. But the minute she said it, I was like, oh my goodness, you're right. And so I know you said that we'll discuss that towards the end of the interview. So I'll just say briefly, I was part of a book collaboration, which came out in the end of September. And I wrote a chapter about that. It was the first time I've ever had any of my work published in a book. And that was a nice thing to do because, as I say, now I want people to listen to this because I don't want you feeling you've got to write a book. Some people they're not going to write a book, and that's fine. You don't need to write a book. So please don't zone out just because I'm talking about a book. The whole purpose of public relations is that you are getting people to learn about you as a person, because fundamentally, they're going to make a decision on who they're going to work with. And the way they're going to make that decision is knowing who you are. Knowing, do I like that person? Do I feel at ease with that person? Do I feel that person is going to give me the results I'm looking for? Could I work with them? Do I like their personality? Do I like their sense of humor? Do I feel at ease and safe with this person? Right? And PR is going to help you do that. So regardless of writing a book or not, what I want you to think is, does your community that you have right here, right now, really know you? And I don't mean your name, where you live, what you do for work. Maybe you've got a cat or a dog. Maybe you've got some children. That's not knowing someone. That's basic stuff. That's basic stuff. What fire have you, because everyone's had a life, everyone. So what fire have you walked through? And this is really, poignant now, because if you're doing safe marketing, you're just doing it safe because you don't really want people to know that you went through that, because if they know that, then they're probably not going to hire me because they're going to think I'm a failure and I don't really want to bring that up. I never make my clients talk about things they're not comfortable with. I would never do that. But what I always say to them is, people connect with other people over so many things. So to give an example, I can be preparing a pitch for a client. She could have gone through a messy divorce. She could have had a miscarriage. She could have been bullied at school. She could have an eating disorder. Like, there's so many things that she could have had. And when I'm preparing the pitch, I always say to them, would you be happy to discuss this in your PR? And they always say, but what's that got to do with what we're trying to sell? And I was like, you will be amazed. So let me give you an example. If a woman's gone through a messy divorce, but she's happy to talk about it in her PR, you can have someone who's listening to a podcast who's either been through one or is going through one, and all of a sudden their ears are pricked up and they're like, wow, I never knew she'd gone through that. Now there's that bond that would never have been there if you hadn't have been so bold enough to say, my life wasn't always perfect, and at this point in time I went through a really messy divorce, da 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 da. Now you have got a woman zoning in on you because she can relate. She's got that thing in common with you now. And then what happens with that is the woman's now going to go, I'm going to see what else she talks about in her marketing. And now that's where the due diligence comes in, which is why I say you've got to have your marketing all good. The website has to fit. Social media has to fit, because now this is what PR does. You talk about things you've been through. And then someone who's curious is going to do the due diligence. And that is the gold, because if they see a connection like, oh my goodness, I've been through that, I think she'll understand me. I won't feel embarrassed to let on that that's what's happened for me. Now that woman is more than likely going to get on a call with you. She's more than likely going to reach out, either schedule a call or send you a message and say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? Because I really valued what you said in that interview.
Yeah, and that's the power of, also you connect, the people listening, they connect with whatever it is that you're saying. And it builds that, I almost hesitate, but a relationship. And I hesitate because it's like they're listening to you. You don't know who they are, but it builds like a feeling of a relationship for the listener, or whatever it is, whatever means you're using for doing the PR. Next, because I see that there's just so much intensity that you have, or maybe that's not the right word, but there's just something we see that you really enjoy the work that you do. Now,
Yeah.
my question is, what is it that you love most about helping people?
Yeah, I have never been asked this question before, and I actually feel very emotional when I talk about it. I know what it's like. The book collaboration that I was in, I called my chapter Coming Out of the Shadows. I lived in the shadow of my mother the whole of my life. So I understand when a woman comes to me with fear. She's excited, she wants to do it, but I also know the wobbly side of it. Like, oh, do you think I should talk about this? Do you think I should talk about that? Oh, if I say that, will it cause problems? Oh, but if people find this out, and there's the uncertainty. Because as I say, there's nowhere to hide when you do this. So the reason I feel so passionate, oh God, I could cry. The reason I feel so passionate is I know it takes guts to do it. No one's going to wake up one morning and go, oh, I think I'll do public relations today. No one's going to do that, right? When a woman is at a point where she's like, I think I should do public relations, we're women and we feel things and we're emotional. Even the most put together woman is still going to have a wobbly day, right? We feel things. It's the way we're wired. I never force someone to do PR. You're either going to want to do it or not. Also, timing can be off. So someone could really want to do it, but they're just not ready at that moment in time. But I also know, here, let me give you an example. So the client I told you about who asked me to do the PR for her retreats, I have worked with her on and off probably about 4 years. I have seen her journey in those 4 years, and she has a team that do so much behind the scenes. She's killing it. And me and her have had some very personal conversations. I know that she would not be as far in her journey if she hadn't have done the PR. She still would have been successful. She's a very put together person and knows what she's doing. The journey would have taken longer. So the reason I feel very passionate about the work that I do is I know that the women who want the career and the business that they so desperately want, they want to help people. They want to change lives. I mean, as I said, we're living in unprecedented times. If anyone needs help, it's now, right? And so I understand the fear that women have, but I also understand they're going to spend their time walking in treacle if they don't do it. And I never force a woman to do it. I always say, think on it. I'm never going to force you. Isn't it interesting? It's very, as we do, the more we're online, we observe other people. And a lot of things that women will say to me on calls, which is normal, they'll say things like, who am I to do this? Look at that woman over there, which is the person they aspire to be. And they'll be like, look at her, everything she sells, it sells out. She's so good at what she does. And she's doing the comparison game, right? Which is normal. It's normal. And what I always say to them is this: at some point in the woman's journey that you are aspiring to be, she was at the point you're at now. She wasn't getting fully booked. She wasn't getting the clients that she wanted. She was getting overlooked. And she reached a day where she said, enough. I'm qualified. I'm gifted. I want to make an impact. So she pulled up her big girl's panties and got very serious about her marketing. And what you're looking at now is years and years of evolving. So she's no better than you. It's just that she reached that point where she was like, if I don't take marketing seriously, then nothing's going to change. And so what I always say to people when they're a bit like that and unsure is I say to them, that's really good that you're looking at that person and you aspire to be like them. That's healthy. But what you have to realize is they reached that point because they took action and they decided that enough was enough and they're going to change the course of their own life. And then the ripple effect to that is they'll change other people's lives because they've done it. They've psyched themselves up and got on with it. And what I always say to women is, I can't tell you when you will be ready. I would never take on someone who's unsure. Yes, you can have questions and yes, you can be a little bit nervous. But one day you're going to wake up and do exactly what she did and say, I'm done. I'm done being overlooked. I'm done not having the clients because I'm good at what I do. It's time for me to step up. And so I feel very emotional and passionate about it because I know when a woman does it, she creates the life that she wants. But I'm also aware that it's like sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes I will treat a client the way I would a toddler learning to walk. They're wobbling. They're feeling like, oh my goodness, this is new. And they're nervous, right? And so I treat them with the same care and the same compassion. I don't just do PR. I help someone with their emotions. If they're feeling absolutely distraught after a podcast interview, I'll get on a call with them. Or sometimes they'll message me before they go on and say, can we have a call before I go on this? Because this means the world to me, this interview, and I don't want to mess it up, right? And what happens when I deal with my clients is I'm dealing with them being human because life is gonna life. And there are going to be times in your PR journey where you don't want to get out of bed. You're having the day from hell, the week from hell, the month from hell, and you're just like, I just want to stop the ride and get off. This is too much. And I am there for the woman, not only for the good times, but I'm there for her when she's wobbling. I'm there for her when she feels really vulnerable. because PR is going to strip you bare, right? You've nowhere to hide. You're being you. And at first, that can feel very intimidating to someone. Not everyone, but some women find it, even though they know they need to do it, they start nervous. But what I love is every single client I've worked with ends up being so happy. And they always say, I'm so glad that I made myself do this, because look what's happened.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for sharing about how you really help a person, a woman, to, of course, start and you walk with them, and then the transformation and the growth and all that you help them with. And for those who are in the audience and might be curious, where can they go and find more information about you?
I can guide you, but at the end of the day, you're the one steering the ship. And I want to say that about anything, not even PR. You can have a fancy funnel, you can run Facebook ads, Google ads, whatever the thing is you want to do. But at the end of the day, you're the one steering the ship. So that's why I called it You Are Your Marketing. You can find me on Facebook with the name Melanie Whittaker and the pink hair. Same name, Melanie Whittaker, on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram with You Are Your Marketing handle, and I'm always on Threads. I'm obsessed with that platform. And again, the same handle, You Are Your Marketing.
Nice. And you mentioned a couple times about a book collaboration. But what's the name of the book?
It's called Transforming Pain into Purpose. And so there were, I've forgotten how many women. I think there was 35 of us in total. And every chapter was a woman talking about something which could have crushed her, but she got through the other side and has transformed her life. And that was my chapter, just growing up with narcissism, how I changed my life for the better, and, tips for people who are going through that themselves and how to overcome it
And
and not be a victim.
is your book available through your website or Amazon?
And I need to put it on there. I really do. You can go on Amazon and I will give you the link for that. Basically, if you can order books on Amazon, no matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to order it. We are number one bestseller on Amazon in America, UK, and Canada. And we achieved that within 24 hours, which I was just so happy about. So happy about.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing about the work and the passion behind the work that you do. Now I want to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, Melanie, what is your truth that heals?
My truth that heals is you have to be true to who you are. And that is in every area of your life, not just business. If you are dimming your light, if you are playing it safe, if you are following the masses just because, well, everyone's doing it, so I suppose I should, you will not live the life that you desperately want to do. So you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and you need to push yourself, and you need to be kind to yourself, because we're all human, and realize that you can have the life you want, but you have to make that happen yourself. As the famous phrase goes, no one's coming to save you. And if you desperately want to do something, do it.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for sharing your truth that heals. And to the audience, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel, share as well. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, please give a rating and feel free to comment. Also, if you would like to help my podcast, or if you'd like to just help me out, because doing the podcast is a lot of work, and not only work, it's a lot of love that I have to put into this. And if you want to help me out in a special way, please feel free to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/truth7. I need caffeine in my body, so please feel free to hook it up. And again, to our guest, Melanie, thank you so much for being a guest here on the Truth That Heals podcast.
Thanks for having me.